Yes, sir.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Dear Dhamma friends, today I suggest continue our Paṭṭhāna sharing, and today we will begin to read directly text from Paṭṭhāna from different parts of Paṭṭhāna. Yesterday we saw a huge diagram of Paṭṭhāna structure, of book structure, and today just to see the picture from a little bit different angle, I would like to present very simple demonstration of, we can say, all content of Paṭṭhāna. And later we'll deal with this in details. First of all, there are conditioning states, paccaya. Then, in each sentence of Paṭṭhāna, we can say there is conditioning states, paccaya. There is also way of their relations. And we can say methods, one of the 7 methods of relations between these very elements. So, and actually we will find, we will not be able to find anything beyond this in Paṭṭhāna. So each sentence, each moment of investigation, we can say, is built according to this structure. Now, as we remember, the diversity in Paṭṭhāna is because the elements can be of many kinds, but all of them are based on 122 tikas and dukas, the alphabet which we mentioned many times. So these two squares are elements from our 3 main categories: elements, ways of relations, and methods of relation. Elements represented by these 2 boxes of blue and green color. These are elements. In any part of Paṭṭhāna, everywhere, there is always something that is paccaya, conditioning states, and paccayapana, conditional states. And they are always will be derived from 122 elements in the way of their permutation of tika, dukkha, tika, and also positive, negative, what we will consider. But there is always will be these 2 parts.
Bhante, can you press the 2 buttons, first the on button and the from button to take a picture of this? So later you will be taking this one and this one, and you take it's already a photo. And so I will just do a sign, like something like you just press stop and
okay. So As I just said, that this two based on 122. Then this red arrow represent one of the 7 ways of relations according to the methods from the point of Pacheco, from the point of Paṭṭhāna. We also considered it quite detailed ways. So I write here 7. And then this yellow feature represent the ways of relation, which are based on 24 conditions.
I think here the color is inverted. Maybe if you change the color, it will be more
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. This figure, this 24 should be red.
right.
By colors looks nice and easy to find and use.
Yellow.
More blue, green.
So the 122 with that we're studying now, they are like the core for any method.
One of the core elements. The other is 24
Yeah.
ways of relations.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
sure.
like the details are the
Like-
tikas and dukas.
Like elements of relations.
Mhm.
The 122 tikas and dukas, this is elements of relation. We will never Paṭṭhāna never investigates anything beyond this 122 or any combinations of them in positive or negative way. So this is the base always for all Paṭṭhāna. So in all Paṭṭhāna, even if we expand it and make it planet large, it still will be based on this 122. And if we know this 122 and the way of other combinations of them between each other, we can always know what is it.
Like it's very much easier. It's already get the formula. Maybe start with this could be also a good idea. And get the elements, explain a little bit, then put this one. Very approachable.
What we are doing.
Yeah.
So next category is this red figure, which deals with 24 kinds of Pacheco, which also can be by 1 condition, by 2, by 3, up to by 23, any combinations, and also positive, negative. But still, always there will be no any investigation moment where we consider relations between these two elements which are based on 122. Relations will also be based on this 24 in any kinds of permutation. So these 2 main groups of things in Paṭṭhāna, 122 and 24, and then everything combines, dependent on the needs of investigation at the particular moment. Maybe I think not dependent on the page until which you were able to read Paṭṭhāna, but dependent on your needs of investigation, because when there is understanding of the methods, you can use from the very end of Paṭṭhāna, because it will be just the same. Nothing new, of course, always will be new angles, but the structure will always be the same. And 7 methods of relations, yellow color. This is also clear, and now holding this picture in mind, we can proceed with we will try to read Patthāna sentences from different parts of Patthāna, not only Kusala Tika, from different tikas, dukas, different ways of this seven and so on and so forth, but to make it not very difficult for us to understand, I took only by one condition in this red feature, because otherwise it will be quite complicated. But dukas and tikas are different. So in the handouts you can see that the colors is according to this picture. By blue color, and on the second page, at the end of second page, there is a footnote with commentaries about using the colors. So blue one is Pachayo, and green is Pachaopana. And now we'll try to read first passages from first and second chapters. Kusalam tamam paticha, kusalo tamo upajati, hetu pachayo. Kusalam ekam khandam paticha, tayo kana, tayo kanya paticha, ego khanda, vekanda paticha, vekanda. So now let's go into the colors. So blue color and green color is always elements. So kusalam tamam means first category of kusala tika. First category of kusala tika. States from the first, all or some of the states. In one moment, of course, it cannot be all, some of the states of kusala tika. And also here the relation is kusalam tamam paticha, kusala tamo upajati, kusala to kusala. Kusala to kusala, in this case, this is one variation of 49, as you remember. This is the idea. Then we can see a very important word, paticha. It is yellow color. This word is used only for first chapter. So in first chapter, we say, if we translate into English, it will be wholesome states dependent on wholesome states, arise wholesome states by root condition. Arise is upajati. This paticha means dependent. This word is used only for first chapter. For second chapter will be another word, for third still another, and so on. For each of the 7 chapters, the methods of investigation, like whether it is dependence or connaissance, or it is other kinds of in further chapters will be conditioned, supported, conjoined, associated, and related. And now, later in the same first passage, details. Kusalam ekam khandam paticha tayo kanda. So by colors we can see that kusalam ekam khandam is conditioning states, pachayo again, which is always from left hand side from paticha. From left hand side of paticha, of this yellow word, let's say, will always be pachayo. From right hand side will be pachaopana, but always from 100, based on 122. So dependent on one wholesome aggregate, arise 3 aggregates. Then further, dependent on 3 aggregates, arise 1 aggregate. And dependent on 2 aggregates, arise 2 aggregates. Like here, a little bit word order in English and Pali different. If we would translate literally kusalam tamam paticha, kusala tamo pajati, hetu pachaya, we would say wholesome states, like make to be dependent wholesome states by hetu pachaya or something like this. So in Pali kusalam tamam then paticha, but in English we make Paticca we put on the first place as the first word and say dependent on wholesome states, arise wholesome states. And here we see red color next, Hetupachayo. As we discussed the other days, in the first 6 chapters, Pachayo, we obtain Pachayo in different ways than in Pacchanidesa. In Pacchanidesa we would say that for Kusala states, conditioning or states or Pachayo would be 3 wholesome rules. 3 wholesome rules. But here it is different methods, and I would like to briefly explain the way how to find the conditioning states Pachayo of first 6 chapters. There is a very precise method of doing it. So first of all, we need to know Pachayo and Pachayopana according to Pacchanidesa. This is quite familiar for all of us. Pacchanidesa, as we know it for Hetupachayo, it is 6 roots Pachayo and rooted aggregates and karma and mind-produced matter Pachayopana. Here, in Pacchanidesa, we already know Pachayopana. I repeat, for Hetupachayo, it is rooted immaterial aggregates, rooted karma-produced and mind-produced matter. And so, now to find Pachayo for first 6 chapters, we need to take this Pachayopana from Pacchanidesa and find states which are, for first 2 chapters, consonant with these states. And we get Pachayo. I repeat once again, after some practice it will be easier. In Pacchanidesa, in our usual way of understanding Pachayos, there is Pachayo on, let's say, left hand side, and Pachayopana right hand side. Now to find, so for these chapters, mostly Pachayos different from 7th chapter. Pachayopana mostly the same. So what we need to find is to find Pachayopana for first 6 chapter, in this case for first chapter. How do we do it? We take right hand side information from Pacchanidesa and find the states which are sahajata with these states, and these sahajata states will be new Pachayos for this chapter. Like this. For 3rd and 4th chapter, we find Pachayo not by sahajata but by nisaya, wider support also base. And for 5th and 6th chapter, we find Pachayo but by taking states which are Sampayuta with this Pachayopana from Pacchanidesa. I think it will be very clear even now. If it is not really clear, maybe by repeating videos, it will make sense later. No, this is general way. And here, in our first example, we take Hetupachayo, and we see that here, of course, this change already made, because this is first chapter, and the blue color in detailed explanation, which is Pachayo, is already not Kusala Hetu, as it would be in 7th chapter or in Pacchanidesa, but here it is Kusalam Agam Khandam. You see, Paticca, and then go to right hand side, Tayokana. Tayokana, Paticca, Ekakana. Lekhana, Paticca, Lekhana. Like this. This is not all possible ways of relations for this for Kusalatika. Of course, we took only some examples. Let's go to the next one. Number 2. Kusalancha abhyagatancha dhamam sahajato. Abhyagato dhamo upajati. Hetupachayo. Kusale kane cha mahabhude cha sahajato. Chita samantananam rupam. Samantanam rupam. I'm sorry for my Pali. I'm very beginner in this field of knowledge. So here we see from left hand side, blue color, kusalancha abhyagatancha tamam, which means kusala state, wholesome states and indeterminate states together. This is also one of 49 possibilities in kusalatika particularly. But the next yellow word, the methods of relation, is already not paticca as it was in first example, but sahajata. English translation is consent. And to translate all this part of the sentence, we will say that consent with wholesome and indeterminate states arise indeterminate states by hetu condition. In this way. So the word is different, not dependent, but consent with. But for first two chapters, as I mentioned, they go by pairs, so the words are different, paticca or sahajata. But the states are the same because not only sahajata, but paticca also relate by the same sahajata condition, just different words. We encountered this many times in Abhidhamma in different places. So, and further, again, this is hetupachayo. And I continue this second example in detail. Kusala kane cha mahabhude cha sahajato chita samantanam rupam, which means consent with wholesome aggregate and great primaries arise mind-produced matter. This is quite clear. To consider more details, we already know how to do it. We just take, if we don't remember the states, we can always take the charts where there are 122 and 24, and we can always consider deeply why this kind of relation is possible. But we already know which category of elements is expounded in the sample. The next one, in the same way, already not kusalatika, we go further. Number 3. Apadikam kamam paticca apadiko tamo upajati aramana pachayo. Apadikam ekam kandam paticca tayo kanda te kande te patisam kipane te vatum paticca kanda. So apadikam tamam means states not impinging. This can be either from Sanidasana Sapatika Tika or from Sapatika Dukkha, I think. Here again, paticca. Paticca means dependent, so this is again first chapter. Here, first and second chapter mixed. Which means again, dependent on states with impingement arise states without impingement, dependent on states without impingement arise states without impingement by object condition, aramana pachayo. And now details. Apadikam ekam kangam paticca tayo kanga, and so forth. Aramana pachayo, this is something new. For Aramana pachayo, we know that Pachayopana is 89 chittas and 52 chittasikas, right? Only mind can be Pachayopana. By Aramana pachayo, only mind can be Pachayopana. Only mind can be conditioned by Aramana pachayo. So 89 chittas, 89 chittas, 52 chittasikas. And the object is anything. And here, apatikam tamam, apaticha, apatika tama upajati. Now we deal with. So here we see that in details, apatika ekam kandam. Let's find pacheyo for aramana pacheyo for first two chapters. How do we do it? As we know, for seventh chapter of pacheyo can be anything. Any dhamma can be aramana, right? Any dhamma can be object of mind. But Pachayopana can be only mind, 89 and 52. Now we need to find Pachayo for this chapter, for first and second chapter. As you remember, we take Pachayopana from 7th chapter, which is 89 chittas and 52 chittasikas, and find states which are sahajata with them. This is just the same 89 and 52. And so in this chapter, Pachayo will be 89 and 52, and Pachayopana also 59 and 52. And we can find this in the chart. Yesterday we distributed charts, positive conditions. Charts for 6 chapter, positive conditions, 6th chapter. We can take a look later. And here in number 3, in details, we see that on left hand side we call apatikam ekam kandam. And under this apatikam ekam kandam means one actually immaterial aggregate. One of them. And in this very example, number 3, you see that this is interesting, that also actually there will be a little bit more than just from left hand side. For Pachayo will be a little bit more as just 89 and 52, because there is Patisankikane, and in this number 3 there is Patisankikane Vatham Paticha Kanda. Why? Because at the moment of Patisankhi, heart base is consent with mind, right? Is sahajata with mind. That's why in this particular moment, it will be also included into Pachayapana, because it is sahajata. In this way. And here we can see this, that Vatham Paticha Kanda, dependent on heart base, arise aggregates, which means immaterial aggregates, and can also actually material aggregates, which is without impingement, apatiko. Number 4. Again, other states, not kusalatika, not apatika. This is from Rupi Dukamatsan. Number 4. Rupin Thamam Sahajato Arupi Dhamo Upajati Etupachayo. Patisankikane Vathum Sahajato Arupino Kanda. Here we have material state, dependent on material states, arise in material states by root condition. And details is at the moment of rebirth, dependent on heart base, arise in material aggregates. Again, this is very important, dependent on heart base included here, because it is sahajata with, in this case, with heto. That's why only in the moment of Patisankhi, Vatham is included, Hariyavata. This way. Next one, Rupim Hamam Paticha, Rupicha Arupicha Dhama Upajati, Etupachayo. Patisankhi Kane Vathum Paticha, Arupino Kana, Mahadute Paticha, Katata Rupam. Again, blue color, Paṭṭhāna, material states. Green color, Paṭṭhāna, material and immaterial states. And it is dependent on material states, dependent, paticca. Arise material and immaterial states by root condition. Here again we deal only with Patisankhikhana, the moment of rebirth. And material states with heart base, vacuum, and dependent on it arise Arupino Kanda. And also at this same moment, dependent on Mahabhuta, on great primaries, arise Gatata Rupam, and Kama produced matter. Kama produced matter is Sahajata in the moment of rebirth. Okay. And then next one, number 6. Again, we take another element from this 122, based on 122, which is from Lokya Dukkha, I think. So this is Lakutara. Lakutaram Tamam Paticca Lokya Tamo Upadjati Ketu Pachayo. Lakutara Kanya Paticca Chitta Samatana Rupa. Dependent on supramundane states arise mundane states by root condition. And further details is dependent on supramundane aggregates arise mind-produced matter by the same methods. Again, here from left hand side blue color, we don't see 6 ketus, we see Lakutara Kanda, which means states Sahajata with Pacharupan. Okay, these first 2 chapters.
If we go here into detail, for example, which elements we have Lokutara Dhamma. Depending on Lokutara Dhamma, they arise Lokiya Dhamma. What kind of elements there? If we go to understand the elements, that's the next step that we need to do, no? To go and see who is involved onto this either Lokutara Dhamma or Lokiya Dhamma.
Yes, if we don't already know the states, then we need to go and to check the states. Actually, in digital handouts, there is also a chart for 122 details of 122. So it's cool.
So, for example, if we have this Lokiya Dhamma, I go to this chart, which can be printed or digital, and then check which one is it referring to.
Yes.
And then you will have an idea. These dhammas are.
Yes. In the chart, what is possible to find in the chart? In the chart, it's possible to find all Lakutara, possible Lakutara Chitta, and all Lokiya Chittas. But here, in each sentence, in most cases, will be not all, but some particular, which still belong to this category of Lakutara or Lokiya.
And how to find out what will be kind of the way?
Need to know Abhidhamma. I mean, that first of all, further there are details. Lakutara, Kanda, Paticca, Chitta, Samathanam, Rupam. So if we open Lakutara states, then we will see that this is 8 Lakutara Chittas and Nibbana and Chittasikas. So, which means dependent on one of these supramundane states, Lakutara, Kanda, Paticca, arise Chitta Samuthana Rupam. So we need to know what is Chitta Samuthana Rupam, which kind of Chitta. It can be Chitta Samuthana Rupam, it can be any kind of Chitta Samuthana Rupam. Yes. We need to know, in this case, need to know Chitta Samuthana Rupa, what Chitta Samuthana Rupa, and then to see accordingly which Rupa can be produced by particular Lakutara mind. in this way.
To know the exceptions, is there a commentary or something, for example, like this, or this is what we are lacking, that you were mentioning? Because, for example, in the class of theology, we get an idea by looking, and then we get the generals. But then sometimes there are some exceptions, and there is talking specifically about certain elements of that family.
You mean details of 122?
No, what I mean is, in case there is an exception, for example, just a few of them, as you mentioned right now, is there a commentary or a place where one can go and...
What kind of exceptions you mean?
Well, like, don't have in mind, but regarding to this part, that as we see with shadows, sometimes one applies, sometimes don't. Like you have the family, for example, all the 89 cheetahs, but then some because of the qualities that are enumerated, some doesn't apply. For example, today, the moha cannot be because it's same root, for example. Is there a place where one can find a commentary or a guidance, or we just need to swim and try to figure it out?
Somewhere there is, and also in chart from 122, some mentioned the most important exceptions, but all the rest need just to understand in particular case if it's applicable or not, to see the real situation. In some cases, for example, one and the same cheetah can be antipathic and not antipathic. You need to understand.
Jadi this statement Lokutara Dhamma Paticca Lokyo Dhamma Upajati. This statement Aseka Pugala Atenuan. So after that he still doing a Lokya or Maga Arahata or Paṭṭhāna, and then emerge then doing Tiryacita.
No, not this way. Not this way. Here by Lokya Chitta, as we see in details, it is. You're a little bit late. I will explain. In this kind of charts, we investigated blue color is Pachayo, conditioning states. Green color is Pachayopanna, conditioned states. States which are being conditioned. You see? Yellow color is way of relation, one of the 7 methods of relation. And red color by way of which condition. So here you can see green color, Lokya Tamo. Green color, which means it is Pachayopanna, and further details you can see that this is about Chitta Samutthana Rupa. Now we know that Lakutara cheetahs, this is only 8 supramundane Lakutara cheetahs, Chittasikas, which are associated with them, and Nibbana. All the rest Dhammas are Lokya, including Rupa. And here in this particular case, this idea is expounded, that even Chitta Samutthana Rupa, which produced by Lakutara cheetahs, even when Arahant, for example, or any trainees in him arise matter produced by Chitta, still this Rupa, just because it's nature of all kinds of Rupa, it is Lokya. The mind is Lakutara, but the matter which produced by this mind is Lokya. And this is expounded here, one of the possible points.
So, how Hetu is contact with, so should Lakutara Dhamma be with Hetu, or Lokya Dhamma be with Hetu, or how Hetu connect with...
Okay, so let's find out. Here, what we do is we take Hetu Pachayo and Pachayopanna of Hetu Pachayo from Pachanidesa, and as we already did before, this is in Paṭṭhāna from left hand side it is 6 roots, 6 ketus, and from right hand side rooted mind with ketu, chitta rooted chitta samudhana rupa and kama samudhana rupa. And now to find the conditioning states of this first chapter, we need to find states which are consonant with them. And after that, when we obtain states which are sahajata with this Paṭṭhāna, then we see if there are from each side, from left hand side and from right hand side, if there is possible relation of Lakutara and Lokya in these sets of states, in this new possible sets of 2 sets of states. If some of them Lakutara, some Lakutara can relate to some Lokya. You see, like this. And because in Lakutara side there will be Lakutara Rutina, Lakutara Dhamma, because they are sahajata with each other. Only this actually is possible, that Lakutara mind and Lokya in this case is Rupa, Chitta Samudhana. So from these 2 new sets, this sets, what I'm talking about, as I told already, is in the handouts, charts, yesterday charts, not all of them on paper, not for all maybe, but in digital, possible to share. So there are sets for 7th chapter and Paṭṭhāna, which we're already familiar to us, and also sets for already made sets for first 6 chapter, but I explain methods how we can actually obtain these charts by ourselves for first 6 chapters. And that of course referred to the work of Patthāna teachers, but still the methods is like this, that we find, and we can check if we not sure, we can always check the charts. Okay, now this was first 2 chapters. Now go to page 2, and briefly other chapters. We continue?
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll deal with chapters 3 and 4. Chapters 3 and 4. And the first example is, again in this case, from Kusala Tika, which is Kusalam Tamam Pachaya. Kusala Tamo Upajati. Hetu Pachaya. Here we see new yellow element. Remember that yellow elements, there are 7 of them. And this is number 3 is Pachaya. The translation will be conditioned by wholesome states, arise wholesome states by root condition. And here, to find states in this 3rd and 4th chapter, to find Pachayo from Pachayopanna of 7th chapter, we need to look for states which are not sahajata as in the first 2 chapters, but which are nisaya. Which are nisaya, this Pachayopanna.
Sorry, I am a bit confused with this thing of the chapters. The 7th chapter, you mean the 7 is not, when you refer to the chapters, I'm a bit confused with the ways of exploration. Is that the...
Is it the same as the method of?
As a
It
method?
is completely the same.
Yeah.
We just call them chapters because already we a little bit made bridges with book itself, how it is called in the book, because we read books, and in books there is no word method. It was in our investigation of meaning of the structure. And in the book they are called chapters.
So it's Patichavaro and then Sahajatavaro, and
Exactly.
depending on it. And every time you refer to the seven, as I understand, it is the closest to Paccayanidesu.
Yes.
So we know Paccayanidesu, you said we're familiar with it. So we are taking information from the seventh chapter, which is the one we know, conditioning, condition and conditioning, conditioned state. And then from there we take information and start taking it and applying it to the different chapters, which are now these ones.
Yes, it's good.
And now the yellow ones. If the yellow is also the seven chapters, here is where I get a little bit don't have clear picture.
You see, let's take a look and check all possible words. Take first page, and we'll read just yellow words. First one is paticca,
Dependent.
dependent. Second is sahajata, consent.
Yes.
Go to second page.
Yes.
Paccaya, condition.
Yes.
Nissaya, support.
Yes.
Then next one, 5, 6.
Samsara.
Conjoined. And
Sampayutta.
number 6, Sampayutta. This is 6 methods from first 6 chapters.
Will we have Pañavara or no?
Number 7, Panyavara. In Panyavara a little bit different. We can now take a look and then we'll approach to it in order. In Panyavara it is a little bit different. The word which is used is Kusalatama, Kusalasa, Tamasa, Hetu Pachaina, Pachayo. So here we see that this is Pachaina, which means in English translation further there is related. In Panyavara it is always related. One state, one kind of states related to another kind of state.
So the way to know that we are in the seventh chapter is the recognition of the Paccayanidesu in this case. Although it's not Pañavaro is not appearing like in the other ones, it's clear to the name of the chapter, right?
It's clear in the name of the chapters, yes.
Yes, in the other 6. But on the 7th
And not only from the name of the chapters, it is also clear from Pali which yellow word is used.
Now, next thing, also just to make it even better, we are in chapter number 3 and 4, and we have Paccaya and Nissaya in yellow words. Yes.
Yes.
So that means we can use in any of the chapters. For example, we are exploring chapter number 2, and we in chapter number 2 we could be having some other Sahajata, Nissaya, and like this, and it's where all the combinations come back.
Sahajata and Paticca in first.
Only Paticca.
Sahajata and Paticca. Only we will find that.
In first chapter you will find only Paticca, nothing except Paticca.
Nothing.
Everything is explored through word
Only.
Paticca, only, exclusively. And the name of the chapter, this was the name of the chapter, is Patichavara.
And you will find only that one.
Only, nothing.
And you will start exploring the 132 elements upside down and in all the possible
yes,
combinations.
only Paticca.
Then we go to the chapter number 2, which is Sahajata Avaro, and we will only have as a yellow, as a possible way of investigation,
Exactly.
Sahaja.
Exactly.
And so on to the
And
last
the
one.
same way.
The only one with exception, or a little bit which is familiar, will be chapter number 7.
That's good.
Because it will break the Paccaya
The
and
grammar.
be inside.
Kind of. Yeah, the grammar like this, yes.
Yes? Oh.
Okay, and one thing to mention again that in the chapters arranged by pairs, we can say that first and second chapter, Paticca and Sahajata Vara, they are the same, only the word is deeper changed, but the content is completely the same, the states, everything will be just the same. No any difference except the word itself, how to name one and the same event. The same with chapters number 3 and 4, which use Paccaya and Nissaya. and 5 and 6 chapters use some Sattva and some Payutta. And also from these 6 we can find easily. Few times already I explained. Also, it might not still be clear. Later, with using charts and with practice, it will be more clear that to obtain new pair of conditioning and conditioned states, Paṭṭhāna and Paṭṭhāna, for first 6 chapters, we need to make a transition from states which we already know from Paññavāra, and to find in first 2 chapters, to find new Paccayos by finding states which are Sahajata with Paccayopana, and the Sahajata with Paccayopana of Paññavāra. Then in 3 and 4 chapters we'll find states by finding which states are related by Nisa condition. Nisa, 2 kinds of Nisa, Sahajata Nisa and Purijata Nisa.
Bhante, so after finding out the possibilities of all the Nisaya condition with the Paccayopana, for the Paccaya, then not everything applies. So we still from this, inside this we have to find out which one.
Sure. And the answer will be positive if at least any one of them is related to. But Patthāna never expounds which particular one, because which exactly. It just expounds this to this, like it's possible. You see, so. But it means that some particular one, like with Lokya and Lokya, it was quite clear.
Is it possible to find the answer in the guides to Patthāna?
Yes, mostly yes, and most of the formal kind of, not metaphorical kind, not meaningful part of our exploration, but formal part, technical one. It is possible to find in the books and the guides, and we also in digital format share these materials. So there is a folder on Surveys Flash stick which names Patthāna sharing for sharing or something. Patthāna sharing materials, and there is everything you can find and further explore. Sure. Formal parts explore, but what can make this exploration easier is understanding the meaning of the structure, and also this one of colors and everything, so that it really goes smoothly. Don't need to concentrate several years to.
So this is showing making evident why in Burmese tradition it is studied in the way it is. So generally, since Paññavāra is so important to later approach each of the chapters, you must know it really, really well to know who is conditioning who and what kind of elements are there, because we are already using it. You constantly saying we need to go to chapter number 7, learn, which is the Paccaya-Nideso. It makes perfect sense that generally in the monastic education they go first Paññavāra, learn it very well, and then whoever continue, then start tackling each of the chapters independently once they have really understood what elements are there and quickly reminded. Makes sense in this case.
Yes, also because this Paññavāra way of relations between states, it is actually expounded in almost the very beginning of Patthāna, which is Paccaya-Nideso.
It is just repeated later, expanded.
Repeated and more detailed. More detailed, but generally it's just repeated and using already for exploration, because Paccaya-Nideso is analytical exposition of states, and then Paññavāra already not just exposition of states of conditions. Because in Paccaya-Nideso we have only analysis of 24 Paccayos, but in Paññavāra this 24 applies to each combination of elements, tikas, dukas, and everything.
The question is why the Buddha didn't put at the beginning. When they come, learn chapter 7,
Why-
number 1, and then do.
Why chapter 7 is not number 1?
Yeah. That would be nice, because anyway you have to be jumping.
There are some
There
reasons.
must be some trick here.
Maybe because actually it is a kind of first, because Paccaya-Nideso is first, you see?
Maybe the Buddha knew that students don't want to go through, so put it at the end so you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you go through. Nice to find, to make tested or at least consider. Okay.
So, we go further. Number 2 on second page. Neva vipaka na vipaka kama ama nisaya vipaka kama upajati akipati pachayo. Here, this long Pali word means states which are neither resultant nor producing resultant states. And the translation is supported by states which are neither resultant nor producing resultant states, arise resultant states by predominance condition, by Tipati Pacha. This way. And then detailed explanation. Vatham Nisaya Vipaka Kanda, which means dependent on, supported by heart-based arise resultant aggregates. So here in detailed explanation we can see that states which is neither resultant nor producing resultant states, in this case this is heart-based, because actually Rupa is neither resultant nor producing resultant states. This is from Vipaka Tika. And dependent on supported by heart base, because Nisaya or Nisaya arise resultant aggregates. In this way. Also, all of these points need just already with understanding of the meaning of the structure, need maybe to contemplate a little bit, and it is clear what is meant. Very logical. Knowledge of Abhidhamma of all of us is, I'm sure, enough to understand the meaning. If it is not clear at once, it's quite clear. And next one, again from Kusalatika. Kusalam tamam nisaya kusalo tamo upajati aramana pachayo. Kusalam akam kanda nisaya dayo kanda. Dayo kanda nisaya ego kanda. Dve kanda nisaya dve kanda. Which means supported by wholesome states, arise wholesome states by object condition. Supported by one wholesome aggregate, arise three aggregates. Supported by three, arise one. Supported by two, arise two. Also quite clear, we need just to remember that this Aramana Pachayo already, and the sets from which we will be finding out if there is relation Kusala to Kusala, how in this case. The sets will be different because this is Aramana Pachayo, not the same as Hetu Pachayo. Chapters 5 and 6, we deal with new methods, with new words. Number 1 is Kusalam Tamam Samsattva Kusala Tamo Upajati Hetu Pachayo. Kusalam Agam Kandam Samsattva Dayo Kanda Samsattva Ego Kanda Dve Kandas Samsattva Dve Kanda, which means conjoined with wholesome states, arise wholesome states by root condition. Conjoined with one aggregate, arise three aggregates. Conjoined with three aggregates, arise one aggregate. And conjoined with two aggregates, arise two aggregates. So in this way, and here conjoined in this 5th and 6th chapter, we deal with Sampayutta. So to make this transition from Paccayapana of 7th chapter, you need to find states which are Sampayutta. And also in Paccayapana states of 7th chapter, for this 5th and 6th chapters, we completely exclude any Rupa, because this is Sampayutta, and Sampayutta always only mind. So if for example, for Hetu Pachayo in Panyavara, in 7th chapter, which familiar to us, we have, apart from rooted mind, we also have Chitta produced, rooted Chitta produced matter and Karma produced matter. And then we will find in the first chapter, for example, states which are Sahajata, and still from right hand side it was the same. Paccayapana was the same. Here Paccayapana also changed because we exclude all Rupa. Only mind. In chapters number 5 and 6 there will be Paccayo and Paccayapana only mind always. Nothing except mind.
Question, a little bit general.
Okay.
I see that, for example, right now in terms of red words, Paccaya, we have Hetu, we have Aramana, and Hetu, Aramana, Adipati. So we only have 3 actually on what we're exploring. I assume that as you start going into the chapter, you start finding the 24. Or do you get some more most of the time, or is there a family or category that you can how?
This is like this. In most cases, for most tikas and dukas, not to say about combinations of tikas and dukas, Paṭṭhāna is expounded in very abridged version, and it is supposed that by understanding the method which is presented in the beginning, presented on as example, Kusalatika is more or less detailed, but still not complete, far from being complete. And the further we go, the smaller the tikas and dukas. Yes, this is I just took not to think too much, spend time, took what is available, not everything of course, but in many further parts of Paṭṭhāna, only Hetu Paccaya can be expounded. In some places, even Hetu Paccaya can be very small. Some chapters can, many, most of the chapters, of course, because the voluminous size of Paṭṭhāna, most chapters are submitted completely, and the idea is that by knowing the method, this is just a textbook. Actually, Paṭṭhāna book, this is textbook, like a grammar book in studying languages. We made such an example. It is not the goal in itself. Okay? This is something to be understood, the idea, and then apply and to find the complete application of it in reality. So this is actually a textbook.
So what I understand is that although there are some areas that are developed or undeveloped, and as you go further there are smaller and smaller parts, it doesn't mean that you can do by yourself, knowing the method, with any of the 24.
Sure.
You can go and
You can.
in many of the times you will find that it's non-existent. Some other things
In
cannot apply.
Yes, sure.
Is there a way to be saved of these things, or some areas in between the
Yes,
positive and negatives that you can already know, and this is not possible, there is no need to put it into the board?
There are some very prominent points. For example, when you see on red place, here we took always by 1 and always positive. But actually, as we mentioned, in a red place it can be by 2, by 3, and by many conditions. But still, it
up
will
to 12,
up to
20.
up to 23. Because why? Because at one at the same time, at least 2 conditions cannot coexist, which is Vipaka and Asivana. Asivana and Vipaka cannot condition any moment together at the same time, because in Vidhi, in mental process, they are in different moments. All the rest of conditions, it is possible to find some moments when they are possible together. In some cases, like
even
theoretically,
even Ati-Nati, which are opposite, but one will be positive and the other one will be negative in that case.
Ati-Nati in first 6 chapter are also possible together, because as you remember, in even Nati and Anantara and Samanantara, Paccayo will be different. Paccayo actually will be not preceding states, but Paccayo will be Sahajata states with this Paccayapana. You see? for Anantara and Samanantara, we will not deal with, in first 6 chapter, we will not deal with states which are preceding, as we deal in 7th chapter. This is the trick, and that's why Nadhi and Adhi together possible in first 6 chapter.
In that case, we can explore.
So this is the idea, 5, 6 chapters like this. And 7th chapter, Kusalotamo, Kusalasa, Tamasa, Hetu Pachena Pacha, Kusala Hetu Sampayuta Kanam, Kananam, Hetu Pachena Pacha. So, style of the grammar different. Kusalotamo, blue, Kusalasa Tamasa, green, which means Pachapan. Hetu Pachena Pacha. The word is related always. The translation is faultless states is related. Please notice that in translation it is faultless state is related to faultless state. First faultless state actually it is changed because of Pali grammar. Faultless state is related. Is related because is related is passive. Is related is passive. So it means that faultless state, first in the beginning of the sentence in English, faultless state actually means green color. Is related because passive to faultless state by root condition. This way. It will be important if dealing with English translation and finding out these states. Faultless roots. No, I am not right. I'm sorry. In this case, it is faultless roots are related to their associated aggregate by root condition, which means actually correct faultless states and faultless roots. It's blue color are related. It is used passive to their associated aggregate by root condition. Okay, but the grammar is different, and the yellow word is related. In this way, so below is a footnote of using the colors. So this is a general idea, and further it is possible to go already and find some reference material, using reference materials to go further and read maybe some guides and everything. It should be more comprehensive.
Oh, I
If
know,
any questions?
yeah, I know that there are some books on applied Abhidhamma, for example. I haven't gone through because
It always deals according to the 7th chapter of Anyavara.
so it's 7th chapter, and it explains like in the way we were exploring with the simple method, like how it can be applied on daily usage. Does it go to something like that?
Kind of, yes.
So generally 7th chapter, it would be around that.
7th chapter.
It wouldn't go through all these small details.
No.
Then
So this, all the small details also it doesn't go to actually to tikas and dukas. It takes just actually not even 7th chapter. It is only Paṭṭhāna. Paṭṭhāna only where we don't have any tikas and dukas. Just taking the whole realities from Abhidhamma without their differentiation on tikas and dukas. This way. And through Paṭṭhāna is applied to kind of apply to daily life, but actually about Paṭṭhāna and daily life, I would like to say a couple of words. Actually, if we study Paṭṭhāna deep, it would be not literally correct to say Paṭṭhāna and daily life, because what would be more correct to say is daily life in Paṭṭhāna. You see? Because really daily life is something very small part of Paṭṭhāna usually. Paṭṭhāna is something which is much wiser. Because if we put Paṭṭhāna in daily life, we try to put the ocean in our
glass.
glass. There is something different.
You better throw the glass into the ocean.
Yeah. So when we say or hear Paṭṭhāna in daily life, need just
It's
to
just
remember
friendly, just to be friendly.
Yeah. Maybe. But to have this idea that actually it is something, because if we try to put it in daily life, then we are like lowering it.
Yes. We have heard from Savaji that says, we are Patthāna, you eat Patthāna, you walk Patthāna, you eat Patthāna, you sleep Patthāna. You are Patthāna. But not don't know how. So these books go in that way, around this Pache and this.
Exactly.
Don't deal with much.
Well, everything which will be in the book is here.
Okay.
Nothing more. There will be some Kiawara I mentioned, which will just enumerate the quantity of answers, but the underlying idea under this answer is still this very structure.
So 2 questions more. Now dealing with the same. If you have been going into the books, how obviously these books are not giving enough depth as to explore all these details. How do you see, based on experience, that this can be applied then to practice? Once you know all this, for example, so detailed, this one can condition this one. If it is to this one, it gives such and such elements, and if it is to this one, it gives such and such elements with a different. How do you envision that this can be applied on real daily practice or something?
Actually, this is something that need to be put in practice and need time. As I see it, me and maybe most of us, actually always in the beginning of studying Abhidhamma and Paṭṭhāna, because to apply it like in this way and to really make this combination, you need to have certain kinds of inquiry. To have some certain kinds of inquiry which is related to this, you need to try to see reality, always analyze and see reality in these terms, in terms of Abhidhamma and in terms of Paṭṭhāna. But there are 2 kinds of investigation, which is based on paramathas and based on panyati. Actually, 122 elements, this is panyati, like the groups. They constitutes paramathas mostly, but the group itself and kusala tika. This is actually panyati, and in most cases our inquiries they are in terms of panyati, and this is actually something good because we can to be able to operate like if we know 122 which are panyati, we can use them in our analysis, and from this can certain kinds of inquiry be born. So this is like really like alphabet, and really start studying, but then after studying we always have certain kinds of life situation and demands to, when we learn new language, then still even if now I will learn some African language, even if I try hard and really acquire some knowledge, actually my daily life situations will hardly allow me to go further and to use this. To use this skill, and from this we can see that actually this is not complete realization of this my skill. In the same way, if we know structure of Paṭṭhāna and everything, we still need to see reality and to find, and maybe even possible to somehow discuss with each other in this term, in terms of Paṭṭhāna and in terms of concepts of 122, because like we were saying that, for example, the event of making dana, it can be actually considered from many points. All of us know that this is kusala, actually, yes. But we can be curious about what else is this in other terms, completely in other terms. And in other terms, it is, for example, states which not leading to Nibbana, like this. And this leading to Nibbana is from another tika. Also, what is interesting about positive and negative, they also have their meaning. Because if to take a metaphor, for example, someone goes to the shop and buy milk. Yeah? When we state it positively, like buying some milk, it's okay. This is in frame. It's not on frame already. Like just buying. But if we say it in negative way, that we are making this is a state which does not lead to nibbana. Does not. And here we name the same event, but already put it in completely different frame. We already look on it. It's the same, like it's still buying milk, but we already look on this from the heights of nibbana, in another frame. With not, but even with not, we know already the wider, the whole picture. We know what it is not in this way. And now, as I see, we are in the process of actually acquiring grammar, vocabulary, and this, and later on. So I still not in the state. I have some general ideas how to use it in this way, but not on that stage that I really can. But I think that we can develop.
Okay, so for example, you are saying right now, we could, for example, read a sutta in Patthāna terms, and when the Buddha says, this activity is low, is worldly, is painful, self-inflicting self-pain, and is not conducing to Nibbana. He already gave one tika or dukkha is already the Nibbana. It is not conducing. Which one is not conducing? It's the same event. It is painful, then you go to domana, dukkha, or domanasa, whatever it is happening, and it's not conducing for liberation or whatever. You can start looking from the lenses, taking apart each of the elements and start looking to which kind of dukkha can be, and then the meaning or understanding, trying to understand closer to his mind, how he was looking and how he knew really that this same event, he can explain you one, he could have explained one by one, or he did one by one element why this is painful and why this is not conducive to Nibbana and what is self-inflicting or pain, something like that.
Yeah, and kind of to go further and see like a kind of wider picture and other details of this. Also, as I see the intermediate state between just use it freely, still, although the book is very abridged and very a lot of content is omitted, but most of the Panyavaras, most of the 7th chapters, for 122, most of them are given. Not first 6 chapters, but 7th chapter. So the intermediate step is actually for ourselves to read and explore the very basic tikas and dukkha's. I mean 122, this is the basis. And to read through at least only Panyavara, this is quite affordable adventure, because it is not really too much. It is possible to read through only Panyavara of this, of each of 122, considering the meaning of each tika and dukkha, like from it is good from side of suttas, from point of view of sutta, like what does it mean? Not just taking these analytical states of this and not considering the conceptual, the intention of expounding this very division, because what we a kind of mistake which we can do is like, yes, there is 89, 52 and 28 and Nibbana, and each tika and dukkha consist of some of them, but Buddha had special intention to expound this in these very groups. You see, and what we the mistake which we can do is just to take a tika or dukkha and just find the states and like come back. You know, cancel intention of the Buddha and say that this is just this state, and that's all. Why then the tika and dukkha expounded? Because there is intention, and we need to think to like this tikas and dukkha's a kind of also, because it is panyati, a kind of sutanta way of remember that there is something actually important, that states can be kusala, can be akusala, but in completely different way of classification, they can be associated with sukha, with dukkha, with upekha. This is another way. And just to go back to states without, it is good to go, but not to go back, to understand which states are considered, but still holding in mind the meaning and the intention. This is.
And so, I can say that we all love Abhidhamma. So actually, to put in it as respectful as possible, Patthāna is Abhidhamma on steroids. It's really a detailed, so we already know the flow of Abhidhamma, some of the elements, but as I feel right now, after all these possibilities that have opened, it's actually very little, very general. Only you know, as you were saying, only you know which ones are there, but in which way? How can they, where are they going? Where do they come from? So it's like starting to the picture we have developed by the little Marcha Abhidhamma study we have done is like having a whole picture, very pixelated, and then later you start getting an HD view of the same thing. You have four things, but first picture is blur, which I could say that maybe or at least my personal knowledge in Abhidhamma will be giving a more or less, you can see that there is a person, but you don't know who that person is. The more you get into the many ways of looking at the same object, the same picture for Paramatma starts just becoming more better.
Kind of, yes, but maybe by Upanisa Pachayo, because this is also something to be noted. Do you remember that huge structure of Patthāna book, which we were looking at, very small and very detailed? So actually what we saw is just Rupa. Right? This is just Rupa, what we saw, these lines and this everything. Actually this is not something, if we will really stick to this and we'll think that this is a kind of Patthāna, it is a mind-blowing thing. Yes? Actually, better to think about Patthāna in this way, that this is, in each moment, this is only one kind of investigation, then it is like, otherwise it will be a burden, you know, to hold all this, which is just Rupa.
Yeah, or if you sit to meditate, then you close your eyes and then what, you know, like the whole map is like.
So for example, another thing, if you can share an experience, once in practice, once you start acquiring familiarity with the tikas, the dukkas, and the different ways of looking, just as a small example that has given you something, how do you choose the lens, for example? We have 24 lenses and many of the combinations of it, and we must, I suppose, as happens with everything, we must feel attracted to one specifically. Oh, I want to investigate, for example, just this one you mentioned. Which ones are going to Nibbana? So at least in daily life, we can start thinking, oh, this one is not bringing, if I really want to go, this one is not, this activity is not bringing, this mental state is not bringing, is not going to that direction. How do you change the lenses? Which lenses do you like to be, or are you familiar with?
Free thinking, you know, just everything that arises. For example, sometimes in some moment, dependent on your mood, it might be interested for us, for example, to investigate past state associated with, or through the lens of time, investigate our feeling. Exclusively feeling through the lens of time. So then we take Atitika, which deals with time, present states, future states, past states, future states, and one element from Vedanatika, pleasant, for example. And I'm interested about my pleasant experience in all times, like in past, how it was in past, how past pleasure, states associated with pleasure, connected with present and with future, in different ways of relation, through karma, through aramana, because I can remember past pleasure and it actually can arouse in me maybe some kind of aloba with again pleasure feelings, or vice versa. So this is like we have a new way of exploration. Pleasure, states associated actually with pleasure through time, for example. take some others also in this way.
So you said that, for example, this is how we should, or you suggest that we should think, instead of thinking all the tikas and the dukas and all the information, we just cloud the mind, that we can actually really hold it when we have a privileged memory. And
Let it go.
We just simplify to this, but this thing is actually happening, first of all, it's actually happening right now in many ways, because it's happening through these ways, happening with some results, through these ways happening in some results. Right now we are at that. We have some causes, we have some things that condition, some things that are conditioned to a few ways of relation to one another, and these are the elements that are happening, but this actually not just happening one, like the idea of seeing the wiki, we have the idea of a cheetah coming up and down, like if we were thinking in time, really passing as we read it on the paper, we will see that one is passing out, and we have the idea, one thing with many elements arose and then pass away to give way to another one to arise and pass away, and it's going like this. But in terms of Patthāna, since it can be seen through many different lenses, combinations of lenses, different elements, negative and positive, right now this thing is happening a lot, depending on where you see. I mean, life is happening, this process is continuing, Nama-rupa is going up and down, and just looking at through the viti, apparently is arising, passing away, but this thing, depending from where you see, actually is happening an unimaginable, our experience is an unimaginable times of combination of this.
You see, what is important is that actually what is happening now or anywhere, it is just nama-rupa, just certain kinds of paramatmas, which are just happening. And this 122 and positive and negative is just way of looking on it. You see, this by different ways of looking, it is the same. This is the same. We just like reality is the same. We change lenses, but it doesn't change by this reality. We change our angle of view. Yes, we can say so. If we apply it to reality, then we can see at it through any kind of tika or dukkha, but it doesn't change the reality. So, and maybe as one of the possible outcomes that sometimes we may just watch and look at it without any frame. Like it's kind of 122, a kind of frames through which we look at the world.
Yeah, frame, like a frame. So if putting jnana in its most basic description, that is just knowledge. That's not very deep or something. So that would be that contemplating the Patthāna would be like the many phases of that jnana can have. It can look through this way. Of course, there must be already we are thinking about the Dhamma, which is already putting us on that side. But you can look at an object or reality through this way, or you can see it through this way, to that way. It's many phases.
Yes, you can say, because I think it is in Abhidhamma there is a whole chapter about kinds of knowledge and analytical knowledge also possible, which means analytic and discerning the path of discrimination. You see, Patthāna translation of the book is path of discrimination. Discrimination, it means that you can actually differentiate and analyze and to see details with different angles. And this is for some people, and maybe for most Buddhist knowledge is important to attain Nibbana and just to live good life, because this is good ahara. That's why we need to eat it. I mean, not just we ate it 1 year ago or something very special, or course or something, and that's all. It is a process need constantly. Patthāna gives a lot of room for it.
Arupino food to keep food for thought, and as you say, frames or lenses that you can be checking and some will give, and then some inquiry or how you say this word, curiosity will pull you to look to this lens for some time and like this and like
Yeah. But need to try to apply because this is of course something different than just language. It's a kind of super multidimensional language of reality which leads to. But still, it is the kind of effort is maybe in some degree similar because when we acquire some vocabulary of language and some grammar, the next effort, like sometimes not very common, is start really to use it. Try to talk. This is certain effort need to be done. And in the same way, need to invest some energy and make an effort and find ways to use it. Or at least just read it through, and this is also good because reading through Paññavara, it gives not according to curiosity or not according to present situation, but just analyze from different points. And we can do actually this analysis also in other ways. So do you remember on the first day we were discussing this classification of 122 elements in 25 groups and 5 groups. We can also proceed from this. For example, we are interested in exploring everything which is about, so to say, our existence, like loosely saying, for example, states of existence in the world. We proceed not from a particular situation, but we proceed from general inquiry, and we can explore, for example, the whole bunch of tikas and dukas which connected with a particular field of, or for example, existence or some kind of operative, or take some small part which connected with time, 3 tikas, and we go and understand this subject better. This is kind of also possible and even maybe necessary because we cannot jump, need to study from general inquiry.
And I suppose the least we can get by reading the Paññavara will take a glimpse of the way that the Buddha taught, how he taught and how he was able to get one thing and then in all these possible ways elaborate it and go to the next one, move on, and that eventually going through, we could develop at least some qualities, or we could even understand some of our shadows. If they have gone through, many of the even daily behavior will be based on this kind of way of analyzing things. Like something
maybe sometimes I think maybe not even analyzing, but this very previous analyzing and developing knowledge gives another quality of mind, and it is just operation, maybe not always with special intention of awareness in terms of Paccayos and in these terms, but just easy way of being through this condition, we can say, because what is the cause of suffering is avijja, and if there are black areas in our knowledge, we always stuck somewhere, and Patthāna, I think, allows to eliminate these black areas just by going through, not through all book, but at least through Paññavara, and then doing all this which we were discussing this way. And then just more easy way of being without necessary to analyze according to Paccayos, just because of elimination of these black areas, avijja, some not understanding in general.
very inspiring.
I think we can finish all this Patthāna sharing today, and further on, based on what we discussed, we can go a little bit by ourselves, and then maybe after a while we can meet and already on some other level to develop.
As a very general going forward, yes, let's continue. What would be like very simple steps? So one way that is evident is go at least to the Paññavara, or start getting more familiar with the tikas and dukkha, and some of it. What else would be like things that we
It
can have in
depends
mind
on the individual characteristics. So the possible ways is just start reading in Pali or in English. I suggest maybe if you are not interested to make a journey very long, it is good to be familiar with first 6 chapters and further on to apply them when already acquired the methods and so forth. But maybe just to read, it is enough 7th chapter only for each Tika and Dukkha. So for someone it may be enough just to start reading and by recalling what we have discussed and of course previous knowledge just to try to understand the meaning. For some it can be reading some guides to Paṭṭhāna and explore the methods in more technical details and with everything. For some it can be for more inspiration to read Paṭṭhāna in daily life. Actually, we made a website. There are some books, all of these books, Patthana.net, net like network, Paṭṭhāna. So something possible. Also, of course, much more material on Abhidhamma.com, which leads by Organiani.
Link for all of your material. Much more.
More specific maybe, because you have a lot of material on Abhidhamma in general, which is great actually, and it helped a lot. And Patthana.net especially on Paṭṭhāna. Also, you can find there 2 other, to say a little bit more, on Patthana.net there are 2 other, how to say, divisions of the website.
More chapters.
2 areas, 2 more areas.
2 areas, yes. On the website, which deal not directly with Paṭṭhāna, but with 2 other things, which is Panyati, our language, and Dithi. These 2 areas of knowledge, in my understanding, they are very important to be familiar with from the Buddhist perspective, in order that our everyday language and Dithi also would not block our way of developing Paṭṭhāna knowledge, because Paṭṭhāna knowledge is always conditioning relations, and in our language we are unfortunately mostly conditioned by Dithi, which are on very subtle level. Very subtle, we can say, provision the psychological level. So in our way of speaking and everything, there is a certain kind of always, like there is a Buddha, actually Sariputta expounded in Paṭṭhāna. There is a 2nd chapter, which name is Treatise on Views. Yes? And there are many, like few hundreds, I think, kinds of view, which are all wrong views. But what is important that actually the process, of course, the process of studying it is very important, not just to rest on the conclusion, but I'll say the conclusion. The conclusion is that all these many hundreds wrong views, they are always one of 2 kinds, either internalism or nihilism. You see, this is like, is like completely real or completely unreal. And actually in our language we always use this kind of logic and this kind of thinking. Not maybe all of us, no, but I mostly use, when I contemplate my way of speaking, mostly this is actually, I say that something exists, some objects, anything, or not exist, or there is no gone. That's all. See, and this kind of 2 views actually they correspond to eternalism or nihilism. In many, if we already go into details, there are a few hundreds of possible appearances of these 2. They appear differently and in different areas of our everyday knowledge and language knowledge, but still this is something that, and if we try to make friends without, to make friendship with DT without acknowledging them, and go to Patthāna, it will be like, you know, there will be always an enemy inside your, inside your team, and the team actually will working against this enemy, but already inside there will be some.
You have a spy.
It is not that actually we have a kind of spy. Yes, that's the word.
You are
That's
hijacked.
correct. So at least just to consider this area of knowledge, just to pay attention to this, because as my understanding, this is something that can really block way further to understand conditionality, to like flow in conditionality, because there are also or either is or either, but it is not either is or either not. This is dependent on conditions like this, change
Open yoga for the mind.
Yeah, I suggest you to feel.
I suggest my dear friends, if we share merit for what we have been trying at least to be here with all beings. So, idano punyam nibbānasa paccēyo hotu idano punyam nibbānasa paccēyo hotu idame punyam nibbānasa paccēyo hotu idano punyam Sabasatanam Bhajima Idano Punyam Sabasatanam Bhajima Idano Punyam Sabasatanam Bhajima Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. Okay.
Please copy materials who wants to send links first.
Okay, so we pass to all the material. And should we get, I mean, we already have emails. With the photos, maybe we can know who is here, and if some other material arrives, we can contact as a group and continue the exploration.
If video are ready, also for some reminders, we can put it on the website.
Yes, to inform you when the video is finished and is posted, and can see or share with friends.